that is, if the husbands are involved, that I try to involve them, because I feel that in the system that we have, once the abuse takes place, many of these families fall apart. Many children are separated from the fathers, many wives are separated from their husbands, and then the dialogue that can resolve certain issue is broken down. So I feel that separating or divorcing can be done easily, but that I feel in my mind that divorce or separation is the last step, not the first step. So my feeling is there any hope? Is there any opportunity for them to sit down? Maybe they might realize what problems they're having. Maybe they realize that they have made mistakes. Maybe they realize that they can build something. And I think once that hope is instilled, and in many cases I feel that if there is a certain amount of compassion for the husband, there is some compassion for the abuser, then the whole dynamics change. So it's no longer done out of anger and resentment and punishment and giving them some kind of a punitive thing. It is sort of welcoming them or approaching them that say, you have this wife that you love, you have these children that you love, maybe you have certain attitudes, maybe you have certain learned behaviors, maybe you have poor role models, and maybe we can have this dialogue. And I feel very optimistic that way, that if both of them come together and have some kind of a counseling, some kind of a therapy, sometimes they might even be separated physically, if wife is uncomfortable, she's not sure about that, but at least in the counseling session we give them short sort of a directions to approach their problems. And I think that the communication is at the center. The communication is broken down, and those two people who are very affectionate, very loving, very caring for each other have finally become sort of in some way enemies, and transforming them back of these enemies into lovers and friends and soulmates. I think that is a big struggle. And I think once they learn that they're able to resolve things, they're able to resolve conflict, they're able to share their feeling, they're able to respect that. And I think once that happens, I always feel that if the marriage breaks down, that also is a very poor role model for the children. So if they could resolve, that also gives certain hope for the children that they can communicate better, they can resolve the issues better, and they can finally make a future for themselves.
After all this situation, when I released from the jail, so I love my wife, so I don't want to break this relationship, my marriage. So I go for a counseling and I see my doctor. I was angry because of all these things, why she called police on me, I go to the jail and such thing. So, but after that I realized with the therapy, day by day, my anger and my emotion, it's cooled down. So I understand the things very, very in a proper manners. So if something happened now, so I understand, okay, here's a limit, stop, think about, don't get angry. It's only the help from my doctor. Because before that, I never go to anybody where from I got this kind of information or some way to get out from this anger and emotional situation. Finally, it's helped me a lot. So in a way, it's going very good, and I'm very happy in this way.
And I think once that realization takes place, then with some support and guidance and help, there can be a certain transformation. So it is not, I think, just a matter of behavior. It is not just not hitting somebody. It is an inner transformation. And many of these programs, whether they are social services, whether they are therapeutic, only focus on the behavior. And I think you can control the behavior, but the matter the matter of the heart is to change the heart, and it's not easy. But I feel that I've seen enough people change their hearts, that they learn that compassion, they learn that kindness, and then whatever they have gone through, being the stigma, being embarrassed, being ashamed, going to the jail, being whatever, finally they see that was a painful, that was a difficult experience, but a lot good, a lot of compassion, a lot of kindness, a lot of warmth came out of it. So it does not remain just a clinical problem, it becomes a problem of human condition, and couples or families, finally sort of go over that, So I think if the therapy and the support is right, that breakdown can be turned into a breakthrough.
Well, now I am almost, you can say, 80% very alive person. I would like to, before I didn't even want to wash my face. Now I would like to dress up, I would like to go for work. I'm working voluntarily, as my psychiatrist told me, to make myself busy, and it really worked for me. that I am working voluntarily, and I think that this change has given me, like, I have a new life now. I'm reborn. You can say that. Otherwise, if I would have been lived in the same situation for a month or so more, I would have been dead.
One of the things that I share with these couples is that they can end the relationship anytime. But what guarantees, what makes them sure that they will not repeat the same thing with the next person, So you can end a particular marriage, but until you are to be celibate and until you be single for the rest of your life, you're going to face another relationship, you're going to face another marriage, you're going to face another dilemma. So if we can learn in this relationship, then maybe it can help in the next relationship. I sometimes even suggest separation counseling, that even if they've decided not to live together, still they understand what went wrong, why the positive, the affectionate, the kind feelings turned into this resentment and anger and this sort of a dark side. And even if they understand that, they can leave the marriage, they can leave the relationship on neutral grounds, so that they don't repeat the same thing in the next relationship. They don't carry the baggage, they don't carry their sort of the unresolved issues to the next relationship. And in that way, there is a certain kind of a resolution, and they come to some peaceful terms that I hope that even if they separate, they end the relationship, that there is not that hostility, because sometimes they have to meet at the weddings of the children, they might meet on the children's graduation, So I think that whole emphasis that I feel is not only clinical, it is also more educational. Education for the couple, education for the children, education for the family. And I even invite the children, sometimes they're very angry, they side with one parent or the other, and help them express that anger, help them, sort that out. And in that way, I feel they might start favoring one parent, but as they can, share, express their feelings, they have some kind of a realistic understanding. Because that whole image of a family, the image of a marriage that was an ideal, that was a dream, finally there is a shattered dream. And to build that back is not an easy thing.
You can always help the father, you can always help the mother, because they chose these relationships. They married each other. The question was, how are we going to help the children to survive, to be a functioning human being? Or at least, even if the marriage doesn't survive, that these children will live an enriched life and fulfilled. I think that's the biggest challenge that's ahead of all of the governments and all of the agencies, all the intellectuals who are involved in this field. For me, is to look at the children and the effect, the abuse, the problems that immigrant families face, what effect they have on the children.
We have to tackle this problem on a very large base, much larger than only within these counseling groups, which are very few anyway in the very beginning. But I feel that while these counseling sessions go on, there should be an effort, a joint effort made by the mosque, by the school, by the media, by all of society. We have to raise our children with the consciousness of non-violence. Our mothers should be conscious, because the first, as they say, the first school is the mother's lap. We have to give these non-violent consciousness. We have to give the value of equality, value of peace and love from the very beginning.